Did you know history had scary prisons? They're from long ago and show how people can be very cruel. From old Rome to Japan, these prisons have stories of people suffering. Let's explore these haunting places. 1. Mamertine Prison, 7th century BC. Our journey takes us back to ancient Rome, which the Mamertine prison stands as a symbol of darkness. This prison has been around since the 7th century BC, so it's incredibly old. Prisoners in this place endured terrible conditions. In ancient Rome, they didn't keep people in prison for a long time. Instead, they were really cruel to them. Prisoners here were often tortured, beaten up, and some even got crucified, which means they were put on a cross to die. 2. The Tower of Blood, 14th century. In the heart of the Ottoman Empire, during the 14th century, the Tower of Blood in Thessaloniki, Greece, gained a fearsome reputation. This was a place where brutality and torture were the order of the day. It isn't easy to imagine the suffering that took place within its walls. The Tower of Blood was used to imprison Greek revolutionaries and dissidents during the Greek War of Independence. It became a symbol of the oppressor's cruelty. Its name alone strikes fear into the hearts of those who know its history. 3. Prison in Edo, Japan, 17th and 19th centuries. In Edo, Japan, a time known for its cultural flourishing, there was a hidden dark side. Kodamacho Prison, located in Tokyo, was a place of nightmares. It was incredibly overcrowded and filthy. The prisoners within its walls faced terrible conditions. These inmates often suffered from malnourishment due to the scarcity of food, and they endured harsh punishments for the smallest infractions. The prison had a rigid class-based system, where the lower classes faced even more brutality. Political prisoners, those who dared to challenge the authorities, were subjected to the worst treatment, including execution. This grim chapter in Japan's rich history serves as a reminder that even in times of cultural prosperity, there can be a sinister aspect lurking beneath the surface. 4. Walnut Street Jail, 1790. As we step into the 18th century, we land in Philadelphia, United States, where the Quakers took the lead in advocating for prison reform. One of their significant contributions to this movement was the establishment of the Walnut Street Jail. The Walnut Street Jail was a groundbreaking initiative, driven by the noble goal of rehabilitating individuals who had committed crimes. It aimed to provide a more humane and constructive environment for those incarcerated, with the hope that they would learn from their mistakes and become better people. However, this idealistic approach faces challenges in practice. The conditions within the jail were far from the idealistic vision of its founders. Prisoners were often confined to small, windowless cells with no access to fresh air or exercise. 5. Camp Sumter Prison, 1864 to 1865. Camp Sumter, known as Andersonville Prison, stands out as one of the most notorious and harrowing prisons in American history. This Confederate prisoner of war camp operated during the final years of the American Civil War, from February 1864 to April 1865. Originally designed to accommodate around 10,000 prisoners, the camp's population swelled to over 3 times that number at its peak. Inmates were housed in improvised open-air shelters, offering no protection from the elements. They relied on contaminated water sources for drinking and bathing. The overcrowded and unsanitary conditions within the camp made diseases like dysentery, scurvy, and typhoid fever are rampant. 6. Palace of the Inquisition, 1732 to 1838. Our next stop is in Cartagena, Colombia, during a time when something really scary was happening, the Spanish Inquisition. This was a period when the people in charge wanted everyone to follow the same religious beliefs, and if you didn't, you were in big trouble. In Cartagena, there was a building called the Palace of the Inquisition, and it turned into a real-life house of horrors. They took people who they thought didn't believe in the right kind of religion, and they did awful things to them to make them confess. The things they did were terrible, like stretching them using a thing called the rack, hanging them from their arms, and even drowning them in a way they could control. This part of history shows us how bad people can be to each other when they believe different things. It's a really dark chapter in human history that reminds us of the cruelty that's possible when people don't accept each other's differences. 7. The Barathron, ancient Greece. In ancient Athens, there was a place that struck fear into the hearts of many, the Barathron. They used this place for people who were sentenced to die or be sent away from Athens forever. Being in the Barathron was a terrible experience. Prisoners were kept in awful conditions, with no food or water. They were left in their own mess, which made things even worse. The interesting thing is that even in ancient times, people argued about whether the Barathron should be used as a prison. Some Athenians thought it was way too cruel and inhumane to treat people this way. It's a reminder that throughout history, there have always been debates about how prisoners should be treated and what is considered too harsh or unfair. 8. Pontefract Castle, 1070 to 1649. In medieval England, Pontefract Castle was a place filled with darkness and despair. It was used as a gloomy dungeon for various kinds of people, including those who disagreed with the government, people with different religious beliefs, and those who wanted to claim the throne for themselves. One of the most mysterious events linked to this castle is the death of King Richard II. It's still unclear exactly how he died, and some believe that he was murdered there. Additionally, Pontefract Castle played a chilling role in the War of the Roses, a violent struggle for power in England. It was also a site where Catholic dissidents, people who didn't follow the official religious beliefs, were mistreated. The castle's history is a haunting reminder of the harsh punishments and power struggles of medieval times. 9. Tower of London, 1100 to 1952. The Tower of London, a fortress built by William the Conqueror, has a long history as a place of imprisonment. Inside its imposing walls, some of history's most gruesome executions took place. This included beheadings, hangings, and the use of a menacing contraption called the Scavenger's Daughter, which brought excruciating pain to its victims. But amidst all these horrors, the tower also had a surprising side. It served as a kind of royal zoo, holding exotic animals from distant lands. These creatures were not just for entertainment. They were symbols of the king's power and prestige. People in medieval times might have been terrified of the tower's dark reputation, but they would also marvel at the sight of these unusual animals, a reminder of the complex history of this iconic place. These scary prisons from the past remind us how people could be really mean. Some tried to change and help prisoners, but others were just really mean. Looking at these places, we remember how societies punished bad people and how it's important to be fair and kind in our history. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.